Meeting will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to tonight's planning board meeting. Please be aware of the fire exit which is to your left of this room. In the event of an emergency, please move in a calm and orderly fashion down the stairs and do not use the elevator. The meetings are recorded by the secretary for the purpose of a record and minutes, so please identify yourself each time you come to the podium and speak into the microphone. The board will follow the items in the order that they appear on the agenda, extra copies of which are near the door. After the case has been called, the applicant and his or her representative shall come to the podium, identify him or herself, give his or her address, and then present their case. The planning board members will then have an opportunity to question the applicant. If this case is a public hearing, it will be open for public input, at which time anyone wishing to speak to the board regarding this application will come to the podium, identify themselves, along with their address, and direct any questions to the board. Once all public input has been completed, the applicant or site representative will be given the opportunity to respond to any public input. Once all public input has been completed and all questions have been satisfied, the case will be closed to public input, and the board will then move on to a decision. No further input is allowed at this point. Michelle, if you would, call the first case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item on the agenda is case number PB 1401-2. Upon the matter of request by Land Tech Surveying and Planning, acting as agent for Jean Baldo for preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide 1.63 acre lot from 2.63 acres and construct a new single-family dwelling on premises 210 Drake Drive in an R1 residential district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Sharaba. I'm with Land Tech, and this evening I'm here representing the Baldo subdivision. As the public notice speaks very clearly that this is just a subdivision of land. This is the re-subdivision of the Veracruz subdivision that was filed back in around 2004. In 2007, a house was built and constructed on that site. A site plan was approved, and now our goal is to subdivide that into another lot. The new lot will be 0.6 of an acre in size, and a new house is proposed on that. We've prepared subdivision and site plan drawings, submitted them for review, and we've got town engineer comments. We've also been to the workshop where we've kind of outlined a few items that wanted to be corrected or at least identified, and I can go over those if you'd like.
Yes, please.
All right. One of the items that was brought up during the workshop meeting was the creek that runs between the existing house and the Veracruz farm market. It's an existing creek, and there was talk about there was some fill that was placed on there during the house construction in 2007. So back in the summer, town staff went out, did a site inspection, and found that there was in fact some disturbance of that area. It was recommended by staff that that area be graded and seeded and reestablished with grass and vegetation to stop any erosion, if any. That was done. A letter was supplied to us from town staff stating that that was in compliance. So that was one of the issues. Another issue was construction vehicles. This home, the owner of this home, Mr. Ron Bohr, resides at this home with his family. Mr. Bohr owns a blacktop paving and construction business, and during one of the site inspections, heavy equipment was shown on site. Mr. Bohr understands that that's not an allowed activity. That's no longer going to happen. It did happen during construction, but that's not going to happen anymore. He does have a yard and a place of business and gates at 12 Deep Rock Road. That's off of Brooks Avenue. All of his equipment is there. And we supplied a letter to the town stating that he understands that and he has to meet all the regulations as far as equipment on property. Those are two of the kind of the softer issues I think were issues that we discussed during the workshop. Then we received comments from the town engineer. These comments were dated on February 20th, and a lot of them are technical in nature. I can go through each individually. We did have a chance to respond to Mr. Shaffron's comments. The plans that you have before you obviously aren't edited, but the plans that we have in our office are. The first comment from LaBella's letter is regarding the right-of-way. And I supplied the board a little earlier this evening, kind of a colored drawing. The right-of-way of Drake Road, especially the north right-of-way Drake Road, is anything but consistent. Most of the roads in Rundequoit, the right-of-ways are usually 50 or 60 feet wide. This varies greatly. So to Mr. Chaffron's credit, he identified that, and as you'll see further in the comments, for a very good reason. The right-of-way, if we were to give back a portion of that right-of-way of our land, about 8 feet, would allow an extension of the sidewalk. If you've been out to the site, maybe not this time of year, but basically there's the sidewalk ends to the west and the sidewalk ends to the east, and with this application, we'll have the ability to join the sidewalks and have a uniform right-of-way and sidewalk across the front of that site. So that's really why I kind of gave you that little detail, because it's hard to see on our subdivision map what's going on there, so I just wanted to clarify that. And that's really a bulk of the first three comments that LaBella had. Another next comment is regarding cross-access easement. As we create these lots are going to have frontage on Drake Road, but they're going to use a common driveway. Also associated with that driveway are going to be utility crossings and things like that. So we are going to provide the town and file at the county clerk's office a cross-access agreement easement to both parties. And that'll be filed with the county prior to the town signing on the plan. We'll give the town council time to review that document as well. Some of the other aspects of the LaBella letter are more technical in nature regarding utilities, labeling cleanouts, and identifying water services. And I really don't see any showstoppers with these things. I think they've all been edited. And that's kind of those are more site plan related. So I think I've kind of done a quick overview, and I would welcome any questions at this time.
There was an issue about a misplaced fence, if you will.
Yes. The eastern border of this property adjoins several other properties. You actually see by that exhibit I gave you detailing the right-of-way change. And the fence that was put up was extended southerly approximately 20 feet beyond the Baldo property. And the fence was off the Baldo property. And per site inspection, that fence was removed in the last few days. So that's no longer extending southerly off the property. It still is off the property easterly. It's more of a title issue. It's about a foot or so off the Baldo property. But the person that fence is on really didn't have a problem with that. And they might be here to speak to that tonight, but that's more of a title issue, I think, outside of this board's periphery.
So the fence has been removed and it's intended not to be reinstalled at this point?
Correct. A section of the fence, not the entire fence.
Right, the section. All right. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll...
I do have a couple questions, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schraber, you said one lot today. Is there the anticipation that it'll be a second lot?
Sometime in the future, I believe there is room for another lot.
Okay.
Depending if his kids, I think this one's slated for one of his sons.
Because originally we were, oh gosh, was it August? I lose track of time. There was originally 2 lots that were to be developed?
I don't know if we ever proposed 2 lots at this time. 'Cause we were
I
creating-
don't remember, forgive me if
Yeah.
I could be wrong. It's been a while.
Yes, it is a 2-lot subdivision because we're taking the existing parcel, dividing one off of it. But there is room, actually, with almost 3 acres, we have room for almost 6 lots.
Right.
I think Mr. Baldo's plan is to eventually someday maybe another lot somewhat adjacent to westerly of the one we're proposing here.
I have another question for you, Mr. Schraber. And forgive me because I wasn't at the workshop.
Yep.
I'm looking at Wednesday, January 2nd. There was a email back and forth between Ms. Nichols, et cetera, and Mr. Blackwood regarding this highly sensitive issue. And I'm curious, again, because I wasn't at the workshop.
Yep.
Has that been resolved? And is I see Mr. Blackwood in the audience this evening. I'm not sure what his comments were or what his concerns were, but forgive me, I wasn't there. If you could.
I can outline those concerns, and he can speak to them as well.
Right.
The initial concern came up with, we had the property line staked between the Baldos and Mr. Blackwood. We actually put 3 stakes on that site. And then after those stakes were set, Mr. Blackwood was concerned about the location of those stakes and location of the fence. I did meet with Mr. Baldo at his house and reviewed those stakes and information and the mapping associated with the project and the past project. As I mentioned before, this is a re-subdivision of an existing subdivision that was done in 2004. So in a sense, we're retracing the footsteps of the previous surveyor. We try to agree with their work. And there was a historic pin on the Blackwood property that was always a point of question. Every surveyor that went out there flagged it up, dug it up, so it's always been this benchmark, but in my opinion and the opinion of other surveyors, it's never really been the proper corner. So we tried to explain that. I talked to Mr. Blackwood today. I'm trying to work with him and try to address his concerns. Originally, I thought it was the fence. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but now the fence is not there. I still think he has concerns, and I'd still like to work with him offline at this meeting and try to address those. And
John, just
sure.
by way of interest and to answer Ray's question, the matter is scheduled for a public hearing this evening, so anyone who's in the audience that wants to express
Right.
themselves will have an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. I was just curious because and again, I apologize because
we'll continue to work with them. It's
one of the few workshops I've ever missed.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, John.
Yeah,
I've
no,
been
the workshops
there.
are a great asset to this community, and your input was sorely missed. But I'm going to continue to work with Mr. Blackwood after this meeting or for whatever time until he is satisfied. You know.
Okay, just curious. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Thank you.
Rich?
I don't have any questions.
Michael, any other? This time we'll open it up to public input. Anyone wishing to speak in regards to this application may do so now.
My name is John Blackwood. I live at 222 Drake Drive. You just got talking about the fence, but I guess we can work that out, John and myself, like you said. The other concern I had was about the dumping in the back. And I understand it was somebody out there taking pictures today?
Code enforcement was out today, yes.
And what was the result of?
Well,
That was Greg Smith from the town, correct?
Correct.
you didn't see anything. Would you like to see them?
Yes.
These were the pictures that he took.
And what we're talking about is dumping off the site, correct? Not dumping on the site? This is in the Vercruzzi property, not the Baldo property.
No,
Michelle?
Say that again, the dumping,
The dumping's in the creek, which is on the Vercruzzi property, not in the Baldo property.
the best of my knowledge, it's just over the Baldo property line into the Vercruzzi property, yes.
and that's where Greg went.
But the town went, Nick, and looked, and there's no evidence of dumping.
Yeah, Greg went down there today and looked at it. This is subsequent to Larry looking at it prior to this as well. So we did not, if you can tell by the pictures as well as you can, Greg didn't see anything. He walked it. He
All
took
right.
those pictures.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Well, without actually knowing where the dumping was, he may not have been able to find it or anything like that. I don't see anything on the pictures, doesn't show to me where there was any dumping done, okay? But on your pictures there, it does show where it's pretty clear down there. And according to the watercourse areas, I understand that Mr. Borer has cleaned all that out down there, cut trees down for his own use of firewood, and cleaned that whole north side of his property down to the creek, just cleaned it all up, period, which I understand is against the law, so to speak, without without getting an EPOD permit. Inside
The
the water.
pictures I
cour-
see here show a number of trees. There's one, looks like it had been cut down, but there's a great number of trees left here. Okay, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Would you understand what I'm trying to say, that he's cleared up down there, which I don't believe is copacetic within the Watercourse Protection Agency area? You're allowed to go ahead and do that?
Well, you're making an allegation that someone cut trees illegally in the past. Is what
Cut
you're
trees
saying.
and just cleared up that whole area down there, which was brush, et cetera, and for his own use, makes his property a little bit bigger as far as you can say.
I'm not
Chairman,
sure.
Is it an EPOD area, or is
There's a
it-
water course protection corridor that partly cuts part of his property. I think a lot of the land, well, I don't know how to address these allegations at this point. I don't know that they're germane actually to the subdivision of this property. I think if you're alleging that there's been code violations in the past, I think in the future that it'd be best to alert the town when these things are happening at a time. I don't think that there's anything that we can address at this point. I think that the allegations that they dumped something illegally or illicitly in the past, that matter has been closed. The loop's been closed on it. The town's expected it in the past and found it to be cleaned. They went today, they didn't find any evidence of dumping. I do believe that if there was dumping that was on someone else's property, who did it, I don't know. And I don't know that that's going to hold up subdivision as parcel at this point. I would encourage you that if you see anything that you deem as perhaps not code compliant, that you make timely notice to the town when the matter occurs. And I think code enforcement will, address them very rapidly.
For the purposes of tonight's consideration, the board is simply, I think that's correct, Peter. And again, don't misunderstand the advice I give you as taking a position, because I really don't have one, certainly with regard to whatever you intend to do. But you're making a consideration pursuant to Section 276 of the code, and that's subdivision. You're considering whether the facilities are adequate, housing, transportation, distribution throughout the neighborhood, comfort, convenience, health, safety, those types of considerations. If there should be, and it isn't before the board and wouldn't be appropriate consideration, that there is either A, an EPAB that is being disturbed, or B, that it requires some sort of a permit, that would be a separate and distinct procedure for code enforcement. And ironically, Mr. Smith was down there today, and I didn't see anything. So I think what we always say is true, and it's been repeated with regard to this application and others. Very often, when somebody makes an application, they kind of raise other issues that are considered and brought to bear. That's happened in this case, and I think it will, but in the future. But for purposes of Section 276 consideration here this evening, my opinion as advisor to the board is that it's been vetted, and you're in a position to move forward with your consideration.
Do you have anything else at this point?
I have a question, Mr. Blackwood. Are you satisfied with the removal of the fence that was discussed?
It's not him.
I see no reason why he removed it, to be very honest with you. I mean,
It was discussed with your neighbor and other people at our workshop, and it was decided that the fence should be removed.
it was decided?
That was my recollection, that everybody was on the same page with the removal. But, so you weren't concerned about the fence personally?
I think it was
Mr. Shea?
Shea
Okay.
Schultz property.
Okay.
Right. The only thing I was concerned was originally when he put the fence up that he didn't have a permit to do it.
Right, okay.
Because part of it was on my property, and I was not notified of any fence going up there, which I think I should have, as far as the permit goes.
But the fence has been removed at this point?
2 sections of it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else?
That's all. I guess I was told by Donna at the upstairs that Mr. Boer has been notified that what he did down there was wrong as far as the EPAD conditions go. And all he said was, he was sorry, he said he just wouldn't do it anymore. But he's been, he was advised that what he cleaned up down there, that whole area, was, you're supposed to get an EPAD permit for something like that.
Okay. Anyone else from the public wishing to provide input?
Good evening. My name is Michael Shea, 105 Brookview Drive. Yes, a fence was removed. However, it really wasn't on my property, so the fence still remains on my property. Now, with that being said, we're okay with the fence remaining there, but it's about a foot, approximately a foot over the line, so to speak. So, well, you know, for the realtor or whatever they do to make sure the title's in place, that we need to make sure that that's taken care of. But like I said, they removed the fence was basically off his property, or up to his property, but not on mine.
When you say his
Mr.
property,
Blackwood?
Mr. Blackwood's property?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it went right up to mine, and then it's still there. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else from the public? All right, we will now close public input. Do we have any other questions from the board to the applicant? Seeing none, we will move on to seeker review. We're looking at an unlisted action with a negative declaration as it relates to seeker for the subdivision of this parcel. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Seeing none, motion carries 4-0-0 with 3 absent. We are making preliminary and final subdivision approval. I don't know, at the workshop, we did discuss that we wanted the fence removed or relocated. It looks like it's been partially removed. It seems like there's still an issue with the fence. What was the thinking?
Just said that he was comfortable with that.
Mr. Shea, you're comfortable with the fence being left that has remained?
As long as it's titled appropriately, with everybody knowing that where the line should be.
And we're comfortable with that?
We're comfortable. I can live with it.
And that would only require that at the time the properties are sold in relation to the fence, that there be a recognition at that time that where the true property line is, and the fence may or may not be on someone else's property. But as far as, we don't have to move any lines or anything like that.
Right.
It's a title issue. And ordinarily, at the time that the property transferred, any of the properties, whomever would allege the fence intrudes or encroaches onto their property would require some sort of a title affidavit from the other party. That's the extent of the title issue.
Mr. Chairman, we did discuss, I think it's bullet number 4, the cross-access agreement. It looks like they're proposing that the cross-access agreement be supplied to the county and with the town, and at the time the town signs off on the actual plan and the work.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard, that any easements are filed before we,
And I think we had talked about wanting it for tonight, and I agree, I don't think we need it for tonight.
no, we don't need it. Would someone like to make a motion?
Go for it, Ray.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I can always count on you, Ray.
Thank you, Peter. Upon the matter of request by Land Tech Surveying and Planning, acting as agent for Gene Baldo for preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide 1.63 acre lot from 2.63 acres and construct a new single-family dwelling on premises 210 Drake Drive in an R1 residential district. I move for approval, Mr. Chairman, under PB 1401-2.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 4003. Absent. Thank you. Keep your fences on your property. Next matter, please.
Yes, sir. Next item on the agenda is case number PB 1402-1. Upon the matter of request by Land Tech Surveying and Planning, acting as agent for Thomas Diagardi for preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide 2.9 acres into 5 single-family residential building lots with site-related improvements on premises 455 Party Road in an R1 residential district.
Good evening, I'm here again. And as the public notice stated, this is about a 2.8 acre parcel located on the west side of Pardee Road, approximately 1,000 feet south of Norton Street. It's an existing parcel and has, it's zoned R1. We have public water, gas, electric, and sewer at the site, and we are proposing 5 new lots. There are going to be 2 lots fronting on Pardee Road and then 3 lots on a private drive. Actually, 4 of the lots will access the private drive. The private drive is private. It's not going to be dedicated to the town of Arundecoit at all. The only dedicated services that we are proposing at this time that will be dedicated to the town of Arundecoit is a sanitary sewer main that'll run from the existing right-of-way of Pardee Road south to the private drive and then back into the private drive. So that sewer main will be dedicated to the town, built to town spec, inspected by the town engineer. Public water will be services that go to each individual house. And we think this is a very good project. It keeps the impact to the property at minimum, not over densifying the property. Grading works very well. This land slopes from south to north down the hill. We maintain all existing drainage patterns and route some stormwater back into the right-of-way of Pardee Road. This plan was represented at the workshop. We did talk about that. We also received a letter from the town engineer dated February 20th. The comments that you see on the town engineer's letter are numerous, but they are mostly just bookkeeping items. They're adding details and grading issues and things like that. I'd like to point out a few of the things that we felt were something we should really look at. One of them, if I go back down to the last item, is a cross-access. Similar to the Drake Road project, we're going to require a cross-access easement and utility easement for the flag lot portions of this property. Again, as you've discussed at your previous meeting, that document will be reviewed by town staff and filed prior to the chairman signing the plan. Another issue that the town engineer brought up in his comments were a question of, has this site been filled? And that was a good comment because I had no idea. We've done the survey work out there with the snow on the ground and it's really hard to see. But I think some data from the town staff, that issue came up. So we started doing some research, and I actually talked to Mr. Bettinger, who is the owner of the property. He's owned it for quite some time. And I got a hold of him today on the phone, and there's this rumor that and half of Empire Boulevard was filled at that site. And he told me, no, it's actually Clifford Avenue is in the road, but it was filled in 1965. Is when that fill was brought in, and there's approximately 3 to 4 feet of road base. If you remember back in that time, there's old cobbles, the big sandstone cobbles that are in there. And so there's 3 to 4 feet of that material in there in certain areas. And we talked internally in our office how to satisfy the town engineer's comments and work with him. You know, it's good fill in our mind. Mr. Bettinger said there's no organic materials, no contaminated materials. It's good, solid fill. But me saying that here in front of you tonight really doesn't probably satisfy everyone, or myself. So I think what we're proposing to do is to do 5 deep hole tests located at each footprint of the house. And if the town wants to inspect that, or we'll inspect that and give that information on upcoming plans, or make sure that the town engineer is satisfied with that. And that's one of the bigger issues that we saw. Another issue that comes up when you look at private drive configurations is fire safety. And if you've looked in your file, there's a letter dated today from the fire marshal stating different case laws and things like that and state statutes. And basically it says, in conclusion, there are no code violations or concerns with the subdivision regarding the fire apparatus for this plan is drawn. So I really, so those issues Greg Merrick's looked at, and he's comfortable with the plan. I mentioned that the town engineer's comments are kind of numerous, but they're mostly details, thickness of sidewalks and things like that. I really don't think we need to go into that. I think I've kind of alluded to the fact of the major issues, and Mike can tell me if I've missed something. But really, that's it. This is a 5-lot subdivision with a private drive, dedicated sewer, and I think we'll fit in the neighborhood. And we're proposing no drainage off-site or negatively impacting the neighbors. So with that, I'd like to take any questions you might have.
There's nothing that would preclude you from subdividing or building upon the property, being that it's been filled.
If the fill is the quality of the fill that Mr. Bettinger has described, and Mr. Bettinger happens to be a professional engineer as well, I don't see a problem with it. We get into issues where you can't put a foundation on the virgin material, so if it's only 4 foot of fill, you're generally digging down about 7 feet for your foundation, so you'll be below that to your native material. But I think it's a good point to check it.
I'd like to, Mr. Shaffron, could you respond to the comments that Mr. Sharaba has made, please? And welcome back, Mike.
Thank you very much. As John has indicated, there's a number of comments here. They're not really substantial where it wouldn't necessarily permit the project to move forward. I've worked with John and his firm on many other projects, and things are quickly addressed. And I think I went over these personally with Adam of his office prior to this and discussed their response and positions on this. So I don't think there's any major issues here. I think if you entertain any approval this evening, if you just make it contingent upon addressing engineers' comments, I think that would be sufficient.
Thank you, Mike.
Rich, any questions?
So am I correct in understanding that we can make a condition of approval if we were so inclined to do the 5 deep hole tests to the satisfaction of the town?
I don't know if that's a necessary condition.
You could employ whatever conditions you want with regard to the satisfactory approval.
He's made the offer.
Yeah, and I mean, it's raising enough of a concern in my mind that I would be so inclined.
I agree with that. I agree.
Does that need to be a condition, Mike?
I wouldn't mind it in view of the fact that there is a sanitary sewer here which will be dedicated to the town. In addition to the 5 deep holes, I'd like to see something along the sewer line. If the fill was placed that far back, it's likely consolidated. But if there is cobbles in there, that would raise some concern to me in that we don't want any large material like that in the trench cross-section because it can damage the pipeline over time. So I think in this case, to make it contingent, I'd certainly like to look at that with regards to the sewer extension that will be dedicated to the town.
Right? Anything else?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Michael?
Okay, this time I'd like to open it up to the public for any public input.
I was going to ask about conservation.
John Kaufman, 249 Hoffman Road. This matter did not come before the Conservation Board. I assume that means that there were no EPODs on this site. As I looked at the pictometry for the site, it looked like on the southern border there were sections that are awfully close to being a steep slope. Mr. Sharava stated that the drainage patterns will not be changed. Assuming that's true, I think it would be good if that lot that contains the steepest slopes had the house footprint located not in the steep slope area.
Which house was he referring to?
Mike, was there any areas that you deem steep slopes that, there's nothing that's codified by any mapping that shows that this is part of,
Yeah, and I think based on the slopes that identify a steep slope EPOD, you could have minor portions of that on a particular lot. I don't think in this area where, if the gentleman was referring to Lot 3, there's a 3 or 4 foot drop off in the back yard. I don't think that is, sufficiently large or wide in extent that would cause some concerns over the stability of that slope and any sort of erosion concern in the grading of the lot.
okay. We're still open for public input, so Jack represents the Conservation Board, so I just wanted the engineer's input. Anyone else from the public? Come on up.
Yeah, come on up, please.
Yeah. I guess that, like, I agree with Mike, that the only small portions of this thing would be a steep slope, but what we're concerned about is drainage down, screwing things up during construction with regard to siltation problems. So if this footprint of this house goes into the steep slope, we would like to see something around the anti-siltation measures that are going to be applied, and they should be approved by the town engineer.
Jack, could you make forgive me, Mr. Kaufman, could you make a recommendation as to what that would be?
Well, on all of our sites that are sloped, there's always a anti-siltation plan.
The town engineers already made recommendations on the comments and their notes on the group.
Yeah, if Mike approves it, then we're fine with it.
That's what I'm
It should be
trying to get to,
considered.
make
Right.
everybody, that everybody's in agreement as to what we can do here.
Yeah.
And that's why I was asking Mr. Kaufman, what, you normally recommend. Mr. Sheffron, are you amenable to that type of recommendation?
Why, certainly, yes.
Okay, then we're all in agreement. It's a beautiful thing. Great. Thank you, Mr. Kaufman.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak in regards to this application?
Good evening. My name is Andrew Nolly. I live just adjacent to the property right here. And this is, once we got the notice in the mail 2 weeks ago, was the first we'd heard about this. My wife and I have been living next to this lot for almost a little over 10 years. And we enjoyed the wildlife and everything that's been in there for the years. I mean, the deer, the fox, and everything that have been walking through there. But we knew some days that somebody was going to come in and build. And I just have a couple of quick questions. This is the first time I've seen this is tonight, and that's why my wife and I are here. Is this going to be trees, or are they going to knock all the trees down? I mean, I don't know what they're doing here as far as how they're going to process that, because like this gentleman said, if there's any runoff during construction, that could end up, at the bottom of my backyard or so on or so forth. So my wife and I were just concerned about how this is going to proceed and what was going to happen, so.
Okay. Was there another item? I thought you said.
That's it.
We can ask the applicant that question when.
Can I get a copy of that, maybe? Is that something that's available online or something like that, or?
I may have extras tomorrow.
Okay.
If you don't mind stopping in.
Thank you.
Sure.
Send an email.
Okay.
In mind.
One of the board members can give you one also if the applicant agrees, I guess. Anyone else wishing to speak in regards to this application? Seeing none, we close the public hearing portion. John, if you could maybe just address that concern?
Yep. First, I'll talk about the Conservation Board, and I understand the direction where they're going, and they're worries and concerns about stormwater, and we do have a stormwater prevention plan shown, and we will continue to work with Mike on making sure that it meets the town standards. As far as Mr. Noli, we are proposing a house. He lives here. He's concerned with this area over here. Not having a scale right on me, but I mean we're 100 feet off the property line, plus or minus maybe 80 feet off the property line. We don't propose the need for any grading back there. If you look at our grading plans, so we're going to let that stay as is. We were going to let that work as someone's backyard, as a lawn, keep the trees, put it into lawn, but we're not proposing any, we didn't intend to put any conservation easements over that area. We also pushed the houses down to the north more so that they wouldn't have a big house looking right at it, because it does drop in grade. There's a substantial grade change there, and we hope that that grade change will soften any effect to the neighbors to the south. So I don't think we're going to have any drainage problems going to the south, but we do want to maintain, any vegetation that's there. I think that even the new homeowners are going to want that. So it's, I don't think it's going to be an effect. Obviously, it's a change to the neighborhood from raw land, but I think it's going to be a good change. And I did give Mr. Noli my card, and I will supply him with any maps, or if he has any further questions, I'll work with him as well.
Okay. Is there any other questions from the board to the applicant? All right, seeing none, we're looking to motions for seeker.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not seeing the secret documentation. Forgive me. Was that addressed in workshop by chance? Some of it?
The short form environmental assessment?
The short form, is that amenable?
It's in the package somewhere.
I'm sorry, I'm looking.
I have a copy of it if you'd like to look
Do you
at it.
have it? Cool. Do you have it, Mike? Mike, would you like to make a motion on that?
You make Garrett usually do it, why do you want me to do it?
Mr. Chairman, I will try to make a secret declaration as it relates to PB 1402-1 upon the matter of request by Lantex Surveying and Planning, acting as agent for Thomas D. Gardy for subdivision approval to subdivide 2.9 acres into 5 single-family residential building lots with site-related improvements on premises 455 Pardee Road in a R1 residential district. I would move unlisted action, negative declaration.
Correct. Thank you.
A second. You're so accommodating.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. 3 absent and no order blocking.
Thank you, Michael.
Motion carries. We're looking at preliminary and final site plan approval. The only condition I see is soil borings and testing of sites for bearing capacity and evidence of fills.
And siltation,
Well,
is that?
siltation is a standard, I mean, it's already made an issue in the engineering report. I don't know that it's a standard condition for all.
Just curious,
You know
Is
that
it-
in addition to the five that he proposed, Mike also proposed the 100, what you said.
One in the sewer line.
I didn't mention a number.
Well, what Mike was specific about is the area.
Mike, I think at least one there, depending on the nature of the material found, I think we'd like to leave it open such that additional ones could be completed in the field as necessary.
how can we word that, though, to,
I have to say a minimum of 6 borings.
Yeah, some wording such as that, and maybe addressing engineers' concerns. That way, if there are some in the field, we can address it then and there and not have to remobilize any sort of equipment for that.
okay. I can agree with that. Have you got that, Mr. Chairman? If that's the case, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move for approval PB 1402-1 upon the matter of request by Land Tech Surveying and Planning, acting as agent for Thomas D. Gardy for preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide 2.9 acres into 5 single-family residential building lots with site-related improvements on premises 455 Party Road in an R1 residential district. I move approval based on the conditions stated.
Soil borings and testing of sites for bearing capacity and evidence of fills, minimum of 6 borings, or is required to satisfy town engineer. Do I have a second? Pardon me?
You better call McDowell, make motion.
Oh, shut
Make a motion. Hey, he steps up. I can't default him for
No,
that.
no, not fault, it was a compliment.
All right, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Seeing none, motion carries. All right. The next matter before us is a town board referral. Michelle, if you could introduce the case, please.
Items for board action is a town board referral upon the matter of request by Anthony Masallo, Yoberry, for a special use permit to increase allowed seating from 30 seats to 50 seats on premises 2255 East Ridge Road in the Culver Ridge Plaza in a C commercial district.
Anthony Masiello, 315 Halvern Cove. I'm the owner of Yoberry, located at 2255 East Ridge Road. On our building permit, they put 30 seats, and we're trying to increase the seating occupancy to 50 seats.
Sounds delicious.
How's business?
We're opening March 10th, so we're still in construction right now.
Yeah.
It's our third location. The other two are doing good.
And what's your anticipation demographically?
Everybody.
You're loving it, huh?
There's a lot of people who have no idea what self-serve frozen yogurt is, so we plan on making a lot of new customers.
You know, as someone who deals in that space on a daily basis, I do understand that. And I think it's a fabulous thing for our town. I really do. I wish you every success. I couldn't be happier that you're going with self-serve, sincerely. And I have seen self-serve from Watertown to Philadelphia to Chicago, and I can't believe what that can do. And I wish you every success,
Appreciate
sincerely.
it.
In other words, I think the planning board fully supports the increase in seating. What do we have to, is this a public hearing? No, right? We're not doing anything like that.
We do have to vote, though, on a referral, right?
Right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if there are no further questions, I would like to make that referral to the town board upon the matter of request by, forgive me if I misspeak, Mr. Anthony Masiello?
Correct.
Thank you. I didn't want to. Yoberry, for a special use permit to increase allowed seating from 30 to 50 seats on premises 2255 Eastridge Road, Culver Ridge Plaza, in a C commercial district. I heartily support this recommendation to the town board. Or referral, excuse me.
All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Saying none, motion carries. Thank you for investing in Arundecoit.
Thank you.
Best of luck, sincerely.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, we have some meeting minutes, which I believe we have a quorum for all of them. I know at the last workshop, I believe you received some minor modifications, so these should be final.
Yes, sir.
Did anyone else have any additions to, we'll go through these one by one, but any, in general to any of them before I go through them rapidly?
I did not.
All right, we'll take motion to approve the planning board meeting dated October 28th, 2013. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Motion carries. Workshop meeting dated November 4th, 2013.
So move.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Approved as. And the last, but not the least, planning board meeting dated November 18th, 2013.
Move.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The last course of business I wanted to attend was to, I don't think there's anything else other than thanking Dan Arelli, but he left the room. And then welcoming Greg Nearpass. So I guess we'll start by welcoming Greg. I think we can also welcome Michael back to the planning board as assistants to the board. Michael will be joining the board at our next workshop. He's sitting in audience today while Dan completes some matters that were brought before us before to continue and represent continuity with the board. But Greg will be representing the town in planning and zoning matters going forward. We look forward to working with you, Greg.
Meeting Greg.
And Dan, this is Dan's last meeting with us. Dan's been with us for 4 years now?
40.
Well, I know that's your age, I know. But I'd like to thank you for all of your able assistance to the board. It's been great working with you. I've appreciated your advice and counsel. You've ably served the board, and we certainly thank you very much for
Thank you very much.
everything.
I personally would like to also thank Dan. Being one of the newer members of the board and having lots of questions, I have reached out to Dan at all hours of the day, work days, weekends, and he has always responded immediately if I couldn't reach him right away. And I very much appreciate the advice that you have given me personally in helping me do this job. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plukas.
You know, I have to join in here. I've called Mr. Arelli on a variety of occasions, and the one thing I have always respected is if he didn't have an answer immediately, he got back to me within 24 hours. And the one thing he always said is, I will give you opinions, I will give you case law, I will direct you to the right place, but I will not make a decision for you. I will only help you in arriving at the decision. And it meant an immense amount to me. Dan, I couldn't thank you enough for your service to this community. You've just been fabulous in my mind.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sincerely.
Thank you. Okay.
I think also, Nick Weatherby's now going to be here with us. I believe your title is Director of Development Services?
Correct.
So Nick is kind of filled in, not as the town engineer, but is the person who'll be introducing and guiding the people through the planning process. So welcome, Nick. And so we're looking to be continue our high-functioning team with different players. And Greg, we'll be seeing you at the next workshop as well as planning board meeting? All right, great.
Welcome, Greg.
We'll also want to be texting you, so we need your cell phone number. We do accept legal advice via text message and Facebook.
We can FaceTime if you have an iPhone, I'm happy to do that too.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second that. Thank you, Mr. Belittis.
All those in favor? What?
I had to interrupt
Near
just so I
pass.
could make a motion.
I'm assuming everyone's saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.